Welcome to Redefined Entertainment. I'm Kevin, and today we're going to be building the $1,500 gaming PC. So let's roll the intro. Let's review what this PC is going to be built for. It's going to play games, record games, and edit video. So we needed a powerful CPU and a powerful graphics card. So we chose the GTX 1070 and the Intel Core i7-7700K. While this computer doesn't have the best performance possible, it can plow through any tasks that are put its way. More on the build's performance up here in another video that will be out shortly if it isn't out already. The processor needs to be able to export videos quickly, so the more threads the better, and this i7-7700K has 8 threads and 4 cores, plenty for exporting video. The GTX 1070 is what we wanted after we researched around a bit. It has a lot of horsepower without having too steep of a price at $400. It's still an expensive card, but it does the job well. It's 2017, so our build had to include a tempered glass case and RGB lighting. This right here is the NZXT S340 Elite with an Aorus Z270X Gaming K5 motherboard. We have 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RGB DDR4 RAM, a 250 gig M.2 SSD by Samsung, and a Cooler Master Liquid 240 as our CPU cooler. Now it's time to build the machine. We grabbed our parts, grabbed our screwdriver set, and got to work. To start off, we take off the side panels, making sure to set the tempered glass side somewhere safe where it won't get broken. We take off the front and move the whole build aside. To test our components, we're going to install them on the motherboard outside of the case on a non-conductive surface. The first component we installed will be our M.2 SSD. We chose the top slot to install it in, so we removed the screw and inserted the SSD. And we put the screw back in, and it's installed. Now, we read our manual, and we found the 2 selected RAM slots that we needed to put our RAM in. We aligned the RAM notches and pushed firmly down. Onto the CPU. We lift up the arm and cover of the CPU bracket, align the arrow on the corner of the CPU with the arrow on the corner of the motherboard. We set the CPU into the socket and pulled the arm back down into place. We take our AIO out of the box, install the fans on the radiator, and then we go through the back brackets and find the LGA 1151 socket compatible bracket. We put the 4 screws in the back of the bracket and then put the bracket through the board. We put the board down on the screws sticking up and put the spacers on. Then we prepared the block and take the other brackets and attach them to the block with 4 screws. Apply a small rice-sized blob of thermal compound to the CPU. We are using the included compound that came with the AIO. Take the plastic cover off of the bottom of the block and lower it onto the CPU. Align the screws and push it on and wiggle it around a bit, and then screw on the 4 screws in a star pattern. Make sure to plug the pump into the CPU header on the motherboard. We took the radiator fans and plugged them into the included fan splitter, and then the fan splitter into the motherboard. This board had a CPU optional fan header, so that is what we used. Then the power supply was brought over and the 24-pin connector was plugged into the board along with the 8-pin CPU connector. The display was plugged in and the system was ready to test. We turned on the power supply, as this board did not have any onboard start buttons. We had to short the power supply. The system posted and we went on to the UEFI BIOS. As we knew it would post, we shut the system down and disconnected the power supply and display. We brought the case back to the bench and laid it outside. We took out the 7 motherboard screws included with the case. The 8 radiator mounting screws were also set aside ready to go. Popping in the rear I/O shield, we lowered the motherboard in the case and screwed it in. Then we mounted the radiator in front of the case. We routed the front I/O and the fan cables to the motherboard and plugged them in. The power supply and the necessary cables were plugged into it, and it was shoved into the case. Routing its cables was a breeze. We installed our 3 terabyte mechanical hard drive into the small hard drive cage. Installing our expansion cards was next. The video capture card uses a PCIe 1X slot, so we decided on the lowest one available. We took out the expansion slot cover and pushed the card right in. Next was our behemoth graphics card. We wanted the full power available to us, so we used the top 16X PCIe slot. We removed the necessary 2 expansion covers and slipped the card in, plugging in the extra power cable required to run the card. Next, we plugged in our RGB strips into the special RGB header in our motherboard. Then, we put the excess wires in the basement and mounted the strips. Now, let's view this beautiful machine in all of its glory. Hey, thanks for watching. Like if you liked, dislike if you didn't, and subscribe for more. Also, check back soon to see more of our videos.